like there's been a lot of emphasis on the running game this week. Is that accurate?
No more than normal. I think the emphasis has been on doing what we do better. Uh, the other night was the first time out for a lot of guys, and at the end of the day, you had, during our scrimmages here, we have good runs, bad runs, different problems from play to play, and the run game is kind of a collective effort by running backs, offensive line, receivers, quarterbacks, everybody involved. A lot of people don't see. Nick missed a few runs the other day. He wished he had had back, but also you're dealing with a guy that was pressing a little bit when he didn't have early success. But at the end of the day, you go 2, 1, 2, 0, 15. You think you had a good game, and really you only had one good run. So, what we're looking for is consistency up front, consistency at the tight end position, consistency at the wide receiver position, and of course consistency at the running back position. And we'll continue to work and get that.
What are your coaching points to Nick, and do you have to give him a little bit of a boost or?
Well, no, I don't think you ever have to give Nick a boost. What you have to do to Nick sometimes maybe is slow his eyes down. Like I said in the spring, I'm not going to teach anybody how to run the football, but I can teach them where their eyes are and teach them not to press so much if you don't have early success, because you never know where the problem's coming from. So you just got to read and react to what you see at that moment. And I thought he pressed a little bit the other night. That was the only thing I was disappointed in, was him pressing. And, he was still physical. When he hit the hole, he hit the hole. But then, he started pressing and maybe didn't see as many things as clearly as he normally does.
What I meant
He
by
was hit behind the line of scrimmage a lot in that game.
Yeah, a couple times, but those guys are out there working too,
Is that what you mean? The eyes were wrong?
Well, I don't think you can do anything about their eyes when you get in the backfield, but maybe somebody else's eyes. But his eyes, he's looking over here. He's not looking really at the backside 3 technique or whatever. But those guys are continuing to get better too. We played a lot of guys the other night. Now this is the first time they played in an NFL football game, if that's what you want to call that. But at the end of the day, it's a practice with uniforms on, and you're trying to get better each day. And that's just one of those days with the opportunity to get better.
Based on the, Hyatt obviously barely carried the other day, but based on what you've seen over the spring and summer, what do you project from him in terms of what he's going to look on the field in September?
I project for him to be consistent, to know what to do, know when to do it, know how to do it, know where his eyes are, and then let his physical ability take place and be successful from that point on. But in saying that, everybody's got to be on the same page, and we're still trying to build continuity up front, in the backfield, and everywhere. And running the football requires a lot of that.
What do you think of Duke Johnson lobbying to be a wide receiver?
I think he's blowing smoke up y'all's whatever. Duke's a running back. Not he's going to be out wide some, but so is Carlos and so is Nick. Those guys are going to be everywhere. I think Duke may like to hear himself a little bit.
We know that Carlos and Nick are obviously real physical backs, but when you first got here, did Duke kind of surprise you with how physical of a runner he is?
I wouldn't say he surprised me. I looked at tape of Duke when he first got here. When I first got here, he hasn't had a chance to get hit a lot this spring. And a lot of times you can tell how physical somebody is after they get hit. So, this is a new year, a new staff. Everything's new. So, all these guys are proving themselves every day. I don't care if you're a first-round pick or seventh-round pick, free agent. You've been here, you hadn't been here. I don't care, and nobody on the staff cares. You're proving yourself each day, just like we are as coaches. We're proving ourselves each day, and team-wise, prove yourself each day and see where you're at in 3 or 4 weeks.
Freddie, the scene in Hard Knocks, you, Coach Jackson, and Haley. So the thing that was surprising to some of us was that it appeared to be your first exposure to this policy of giving guys off. Was it the first time you had heard of it, and why didn't you explain his philosophy prior to that?
Well, I don't think that's one of the things that don't come up until it comes up. And, you talk through things as a staff, and we talk through it. But hell, if that's as worse as it gets, as staff now, Todd and I have been together several different times, or a couple of different times, and when you have people that are passionate about the game and competitive and passionate about winning, you're going to have discussions. That the other night was not a discussion at all. I mean, it wasn't even an argument. It was nothing. I think sometimes, I learned a long time ago, I think sometimes media chases controversy and players chase stats, all right? And both of them equal the same thing, and it equals money, all right? And I think that's where we're at with that story, There's no controversy. There's no friction. There's nothing like that. That was we do the same thing, and we suggest things, and Hugh's like, hell, that's a great idea. So nobody wants to cover that because everything looks hunky-dory,
Where does the incident yesterday rank on the argument meter in your career?
It was a little bit higher on the meter, but it's still, like I've worked on some staffs before that, some damn good staffs. In Dallas we had 6 or 7 head coaches on that staff. So, there's a lot of what you have to do sometimes as a staff is understand where the other people are coming from, and sometimes you roll with it and see how it works. Because sometimes your ideas aren't the best, but that's not gonna. That doesn't mean that Todd and I aren't going to throw our ideas out there. And just like Greg Seaman, Bob Wiley, everybody else has ideas too. I think it just got blown up a little bit because it was on Hard Knocks and everybody saw it. But in today's age, I'm sure some 24 and 25-year-old kids would quit if they had any kind of confrontation at all like that. But that didn't happen here, and it's not going to happen. And hell, that's not even close to being a story.
Was that something we maybe didn't get the whole story either because of the way it was edited for TV?
I don't know. What you see is what you got. But even if you just take what you got, I don't know what was bad about all that. Hugh is, I don't know, last time I checked, Hugh is the head coach. So he does get final approval, but that's not going to, everybody's still going to voice their opinions. And if he doesn't have people voicing his opinion, he's got the wrong staff. And, I think that's where we're at.
Could you run through again where your running backs need to get their heads to be on the same page as you?
Well, it depends on the play. If we're running inside zone, we're going to read the first inside linebacker and run, different aspects of outside zones. Their eyes may be on the end or safeties or anything like that. So it all depends on the play.
Do you have an opportunity to, or do you ever wish you could grab Jabril and throw him into your run game?
No, but I do have a great desire to blast Jabril whenever he rushes the passer.
When you say Nick was pressing, do you just mean not being patient enough, waiting for holes to open up, or what do you mean by that?
Well, I think just maybe sometimes he takes his eyes off what he's looking for somewhere else because he got hit in this certain area at this point in time in a different play. And then some of the runs, and at the end of the day, if he just knows when to throw in the towel and get back to the line of scrimmage, he has a different type game, So some of those runs, more specifically, those runs that were bounced outside and there was clearly nothing there, we just want him to get back and limit the damage. Because at the end of the day, in this league, gets you beat is negative plays, and those ended up being negative plays.
Have you seen him be better in the couple of days of practice since, and do you expect to see a different version of Nick on Friday night?
Well, it depends on how it goes. That's why we play, and that's why we come back to practice. And he's had days in practice like that too. It's just everybody wants to look at the ones that are 40 yards down the field and not the ones that are 2 and 3 yard gains.
But are you encouraged by what you've seen overall from him?
Oh yeah, I'm not I'm not throwing him back. Everybody else wants to throw him back now or whatever, but I'm not throwing Nick back. I love our room. I love Nick. I love Carlos. I love Dontrell and Matthew. I think we've got a good room.
Does your foundation for your own brand of toughness pretty much go to Alabama?
I think so, and probably, I think so much of that depends on how you're raised some. I almost moved to Akron. My dad worked for Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company for, 20 years. And out of those 20 years, he was, laid off or on strike 12 of those 20. So you know, where I came from, everybody comes from different places, but probably that's where, you know, my dad instilled that in me early on.
Your family point taken, but I know you know the legend of Bear Bryant and how brutal his practices were. I don't know if that carried over to when you were there.
Well, I don't know necessarily if you factor in, you know, guys being out there as being brutal. I mean, in Oxnard, California in 2006, when I was with Bill Parcells, it was the league mandated practices were different then than they were now. And sometimes the league is taking some of these aspects of building toughness away. So when you have the opportunity to build toughness, which is inside of the practice, sometimes you have to take those opportunities because that's the only time you're ever A, going to build that toughness, and B, find out if somebody's tough. And I think, you know, that's the key to seeing if you have toughness or not. I'm not going to make somebody tougher, but I'm going to expose their lack of toughness, you know.
Pretty good.
Keeping an eye on that Alabama quarterback competition?
No. I was glad to get out of that not 10 years ago, whatever it was. Anybody else got any questions? Hugh and Todd and me? Anybody?
So,
That's been for coaches since the CBA, and you've lost so much practice time. Right, I know that that's maybe not toughness at the same level, but having the guys all the time, going at it all the time, how much has been lost for you guys?
I think there's some of the onus falls on the player from the standpoint and the coach from the standpoint of being able to evaluate that aspect of it more quick. But what it's done more than anything, I think, is you're not allowed to build endurance like you used to easily through the course of practice. The difference between being in shape and endurance is, I don't like talking about other players, but I've had other players before playing tight end that played, if the offense had 80 plays in the game, they played 80 plays. You know, I just left a receiver out there. If we had 80 plays, he was on the field 80 times, 80 plays. And I think the onus falls on the player a little more to have that endurance. A lot of people can go out and run gassers all day, but to play after play after play after play, that's endurance, and that's what you need in the game of football.